Hey, welcome back to the Ray Lucia Show. I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself. He's going to be answering viewer emails coming up right after this. You can go to raylucia.com, send in your email questions. We're joined right now by Bonnie Zwack, owner of Always Best Care, Palm Desert. Yeah, Palm Desert, California, and you had quite a bit of traffic on the way in today.
Oh, yes. We were wondering if we were going to make it.
We really appreciate you coming in because you are one of those exceptional people who have found their vocation in life. And I love that. I love when people love what it is that they do. And you specialize in helping people get through kind of that rough time when they realize they just can't do everything for themselves, or maybe they don't realize it, maybe their family does first.
That's very true. Very, very true. I think that we were talking about a little bit earlier how it being in the desert, just as my husband and I did, we came there to retire.
Right.
And so many people did that years ago. And now they love it because it's warm.
Sure.
All of those things. The kids come down from maybe Washington, Oregon, Minnesota.
Yeah, but they are far away from their families.
They're far away from their families. And that's sometimes the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when the families do come down for a vacation or on a holiday and they see that mom and dad aren't doing so well, we get the calls, oh my gosh, you need to help us here.
Right. And that's a very emotional decision.
Extremely.
I mean, you're already faced a little bit with a crisis to begin with because there's obviously some sort of a health issue going on there and some sort of deterioration. So you have to do something. But there's a lot of emotional anxiety built up with that. And so how do you help people with that?
Well, first of all, when we get the call, I always hope that we can get together face to face and talk about the situation. Many times the people who need the help, the father, the mother, or both, are very resistant, and they don't want the kids coming in and telling them what to do, very honestly.
Right.
So they have their heels dug in. They don't want to go to Minnesota or Oregon or wherever the children are from. They want to stay in the desert because they have friends there.
Right.
It's very warm and comfortable, and they just don't want to go to the cooler climates for whatever reason.
Yeah, for whatever reason, right.
Yeah.
Well, they've been the parent the whole time. They don't want their kids telling them what to do, right?
And you know, it does get to the point where that role is reversed, and the parents kind of become the children, and the children have to become the parents and make the proper decisions for them. So I generally will meet with them. Sometimes we meet in our office just with the family, and then we will hopefully be able to meet with the father or mother, the person that needs the help. I think it gives them, I feel that my age works in my favor there because, you know, I'm not far away from them.
Sure.
And so I think they're very trusting of me, and so I always like to have the face-to-face with them.
Now you shared something with me. Before you were in real estate for a long time, and you worked your whole life to retire. Then you retired, and you decided you didn't love it, but you did find this thing that you do now with Always Best Care, which is helping people with placements. And people can get you at 855-850-2273.
Well, I'll tell you my desert number, and I give out my cell phone number.
Sure.
I'm happy to give out my cell phone number. And
so if somebody needed to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way to do it?
760-774 2266. And that's my cell phone number, and I'm a very hands-on owner, and I'm always available on my phone.
Or 855-470-2273. That's the toll-free number.
That's the toll-free number.
That's the toll-free number. It's Always Best Care. Now you found this second career helping people with placements, and you said something which really made me feel good, is that for you it's a vocation. You just love helping people. You're still working 8 to 10 hours a day, but you do it because you love it.
I love it.
And not everybody's that fortunate.
And it's rewarding. And you know that you're really helping people who are in a tough spot.
Right.
So when we get to this point and the family realizes, then you have to decide, are they appropriate for assisted living, independent living maybe, or a board and care? And that's what I help them sort out. Because most people, and I saw this in my own neighborhood, do not know where to begin.
Right.
And we have probably 125 board and care homes in the desert, plus we have many assisted livings and that, you know, and independent living as well. So the difference really is determined by the level of care that the family member needs.
Well, and what you specialize really in doing is help take some of the emotion out of it, because I mean they're faced with a lot of decisions that they have to make. They're kind of in crisis to begin with. At least a little bit. There's always a little bit of anxiety whenever anybody has to make this kind of a change.
Well, I think there's a lot of anxiety.
Well, no, I'm just saying, just at the very least, there's at least a little bit, but usually it's more than that. And this is the wrong, you know, sometimes when people are very emotional about things, they can make the wrong decisions.
Absolutely.
And you help them, guide them in the proper way in order to make the best decisions for themselves, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's really based on what level of care that family member needs. Now, someone who is needing a tremendous amount of care is not, in my opinion, John, appropriate for an assisted living. Which is a beautiful apartment with restaurant-style dining and a lot of activities. Well, now if somebody is wheelchair-bound or bed-bound or needing someone to give showers, maybe even incontinence care, in my opinion, that is just not the appropriate place.
Right.
But for family members, sometimes it's beautiful.
Well,
that's sometimes what they're looking at.
Yes.
And I have to kind of bring them back and say, is it about the ambiance or is it about the care?
Right. Style over the substance over the style.
Exactly.
Whereas they, you know, they want to be able to walk away feeling well, but they're in a beautiful place, and that's really how they judge it. How about home care? How affordable is that? Is that usually a budgetary issue, or what is that?
Home care is, I believe, the most expensive care. And if people can stay in their homes, I think it's the best thing to do, and this is what we try to do. Keep them in their homes, keep them as independent as possible, but keep them safe, and have someone there to keep eyes on them, because as we said, most of the family members are not close by.
Right.
So we become more like a family to them, and then we report to their loved ones.
So how often would they hear from you if they're up in Minnesota and you're in Palm Desert? How often are they going to hear?
Well, it just kind of depends. We try to keep in touch with them, say every week or two, to let just a little note, everything's doing fine, you know, or if we have some concerns, then we'll give them a call and say, you know, we have some concerns about your mom. She doesn't seem to be doing too well, you know, so we want them to know what is going, how things are going.
Right, and that's really the key to everybody's peace of mind, is being able to keep that communication going back and forth. So it's not just the initial placement, but then it's ongoing monitoring and letting everybody know what needs are changing and what needs are being met and what needs aren't being met at that point.
And they're depending on us for that, because they need our eyes and ears on what is going on. So, but I just wanted to mention, as far as the board and care as opposed to the assisted living.
Right.
Board and care is very one-on-one attention, because it's in a home like yours and mine, and they're all licensed by the state of California, and they're usually licensed for 6 people. You can have either a shared room or a private room, okay? But as I say, it's probably a ratio of 1 caregiver to 3 people. And in an assisted living, you're going to have 1 caregiver to 10 to 12.
Right.
So you can see that if someone really needs a lot of
more
care,
attention,
that is what they need, where they can have closer eyes and ears on them.
Right, and those are usually pretty fine distinctions between somebody who maybe needs assisted living and somebody who needs board and care, right?
Well, family members don't always see that.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's my point.
That is the problem. Now, cost-wise, I would say board and care can be quite a bit less.
Oh, it can be.
Yes, it can, because you don't have move-in fees like most of the assisted livings have, maybe anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 as a move-in fee. They don't have those in the board and care.
Right.
And once the pricing for the monthly rent is established, that's what it is. They rarely will raise that fee. In assisted living, everything is a la carte. You pay a fee to come in for the monthly rent, And then as the care increases, then the costs increase for that care.
Right.
So sometimes I end up moving people out of those places because the cost has become just too much for the family.
And you're never retiring, right?
Never.
You're going to be doing this for forever.
I hope so. I told my children I will be the most difficult person to deal with.
Well, God bless you, because these are decisions that I think quite literally nobody wants to make. Nobody really even wants to think through, and you bring a perspective I think that's important because of that, because people don't want to plan for this. No. Hey, I'm John Bam Ransom filling in, but not replacing the great man himself, Ray Lucia. He's going to be up next answering your emails. If you have email questions, you can send them to raylucia.com, at raylucia.com, and we will be back right after this. This doesn't sound like Ray approved music. This sounds like something that was 1979 maybe, Cars. I think I was a freshman in high school at the time. Hey, welcome back to Ray Lucia Show. I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself. He will be back with us to answer your email questions. If you have questions for him, you can get them at raylucia.com. That's raylucia.com. In the meantime, we are joined by Bonnie Zwack with Always Best Care, owner in Palm Desert, who braved the mountain roads, the treacherous mountain roads, to join us today and talk. And God bless you for what it is that you do. We were talking kind of before you came on, and I was saying, 20 years ago when I was a registered rep, a broker, I was in Palm Beach, and in Palm Beach, Florida. You're in Palm Desert. Same kind of population, right? Retired population. But even 20 years ago, the talk of long-term care wasn't as big as it is today, because people are living longer, and that's the good thing. The bad thing is they may not necessarily be prepared for it. So that's one of your jobs, really, is to educate people about this, right?
Yes, as we were talking, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes, one of the most important things I feel that I do is to educate people, because when a family member comes and finds out that mom or dad needs some assistance, then they basically don't know where to turn. I think most people are aware of assisted living,
of course,
with the beautiful apartments and the restaurant dining and that sort of thing. But the other option is residential care homes for the elderly, RCFE, and most commonly known as board and care.
Right.
And whenever you say that, I can just about guarantee the senior citizen is going to think nursing home.
Right.
So I need to get them past that fear of being placed into a nursing home.
Right.
So that is why we sit down and have a discussion, and hopefully can make them feel less fearful about what that's all about. First of all, I'm telling them it's a beautiful home like yours and mine. You can either have a private room or a shared room.
Right, and some people might want to share a room.
Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's better, even though most family members want a private room.
Right.
But that's not necessarily what's the best for their loved one.
Right.
I think some of the things that people may not know about residential care is that they are all licensed by the state of California. Very strict licensing. As far as medications, they all have to be locked up, and then they're dispersed according to doctor's orders.
Right.
They have hospice waivers, so if someone is in the home for a long period of time and they need to go on hospice, that's available. They have dementia waivers. Home health can come in, your doctor can come in to see you. Physical therapists. So.
And what they're trying to do with board and care, it's probably unfortunate, it's really more residential care. What they're trying to do is duplicate as close as possibly the same experience they would have if they stayed in their own home,
exactly.
Right?
Except with a few other people there, which is a positive, because then that takes away some of the depression.
Exactly.
When they're isolated at home and no one is there.
And what you pointed out to me, which I think is really key, is oftentimes that's less expensive than, say, an assisted living facility.
That is true. There is, well, I will say 99% of the time there's not a move-in fee. And then once they set the cost, that will be what they pay. They rarely ever would raise it. And unless, the one thing that they will charge extra for most of the time is, say, incontinence supplies.
Sure.
But it's all inclusive. It's their laundry, it's all their meals, snacks, any kind of care that they need. They also provide the bed, the dresser, the lamp. That's all part of what the requirements are for a residential care home.
And you can get Bonnie at 760-774-2266. That's 760-774-2266. Of course, you can always go to Always Best Care. Look her up there. And you're always available. I mean, you were sharing that you're in Palm Desert in part because you love golf.
Yes.
Unfortunately or fortunately, you don't get to play quite as much because you found a vocation. I mean, you had a career, you retired,
right?
But you found something that you really love to do, and that's why you do this, right?
Absolutely.
So golf is only one day a week on Sunday now.
One day, Sunday
right?
morning. I won't give that up, but otherwise I'll work weekends because people don't need help on a schedule. So
Right.
I want to be there for them. Mm-hmm. And I would hope someone would do that for me when I get to that point. So
well, I'm sure some of us can be persuaded to make sure that you're taken care of. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about how, you know, the whole face of long-term care is kind of changing. More and more people are going to be needed. We had Lynn Rowe on earlier this week who talked a little bit about the statistics. 70% of couples are going to need some form of long-term care. Your job really is to help kind of point out the alternatives and help them during a crisis period when they're very emotional
Right.
to make the best decision on behalf of the loved one, because they don't know all of the different options,
no,
right?
they really don't. They are at a loss most of the time. I mean, where do I go? What do I do? That's what I'm here for, to help sort all of that out for them.
Well, and this is something that none of us really want to think that much
No,
about,
we
and so
don't.
typically we put the conversation off.
Exactly.
We say silly things like, well, you know, I'll just take care of her, or which, you know, clearly,
Or maybe you could come to live with me.
or right, or you know what, if I ever get that bad, just don't do anything. I just want to die at that
Yeah,
point. But that's
exactly.
not the reality. The reality is that these decisions do have to be made.
They do.
And so it's easier with a resource like Always Best Care and you
Thank you.
guiding them through the process, right?
Yeah. I think it's very important, and hopefully we make it a process that's a little bit easier than it would have been if they had not been educated about what's actually available.
Mm-hmm. And you know, 20 years ago, there weren't as many
No.
options available.
Well, and I don't think anybody knew about residential care homes, and they probably didn't have them 20 years ago, as far as I know. I never heard of them.
Well, and I think we'll continue to see, because of folks like you, we'll continue to see the space evolve, because you know, every statistic that I see that says that, you know, as we go by another decade, the life expectancy continues to grow.
Right. That's one of the factors that, frankly, people do not know, is how long are we going to live? So how long are our finances going to last? And so they have to be mindful of that. Now, some help with this can be your long-term care insurance, of course, but not enough people probably have it.
Sure.
Or VA benefits. If there was a husband that was a veteran, or the mother was a veteran, or you're a surviving spouse. Many times that can help pay for that care.
And so you kind of go through this decision matrix with people in order to, you know, to figure out what's best for them, also what's affordable too, because they have to do it on a
Very
budget that works for them.
Very important. Absolutely.
And so do you find that most people are willing to kind of, do you have good outcomes at the end of the day? Are they?
Absolutely.
Right.
I think people are very receptive, and most of the time they're like, oh, thank
It's a
you
big
so
relief?
much. It's a big relief. You know, I don't know what I would have done without you. I wouldn't have known where to begin, and so that's the rewarding part.
Do you recommend people do some pre-planning before they even get to the point that
Well,
they think about
I do,
it?
but you know, honestly, that's not really very realistic. People wait for a crisis, unfortunately.
Hey, it's Always Best Care. Bonnie Zwack, 760-774-2266. 774-2266. I'm John Van Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself, Ray Lucia. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about long-term care and the changing face of it. We're also going to have Ray in studio, and he's going to be answering your money questions. We'll be back right after this.